Cowboy Bebop makes loneliness look cool. That's the trick. The music is cool, the fights are cool, the spaceships are cool, Spike is cool, Faye is cool, Jet is cool. Everything about Cowboy Bebop feels stylish enough that at first, you almost forget how sad it is. But the longer the show goes on, the more that style starts to feel like a mask. Because Cowboy Bebop is not really about people living free in space. It is about people drifting through space because they don't know where else to go. And that's what makes the show hit so hard. The coolness pulls you in, but the loneliness is what stays. A lot of anime are about growth. A character starts weak, finds a dream, builds a team, and slowly moves towards becoming the person they were always meant to be. Cowboy Bebop feels different because most of his characters are not moving toward a future. They are running from a past. That changes everything. Spike is not trying to become someone. Faye is trying to figure out who she already was. Jet is trying to live with the choices he made. Even Ed, the most chaotic and free member of the crew, eventually has to leave because staying on the Bebop means staying around people who don't know how to stay. That's the emotional core of the show. The Bebop is not a normal found family. It is a temporary shelter for people who have already lost something important. And the tragedy is that they find each other, but most of them are too haunted to fully accept what they found. Spike is the obvious place to start, because Spike is one of the coolest characters in anime. But the point of Cowboy Bebop is not that you should want to be like him. That's the mistake. Spike looks free because he acts detached from everything. He moves like nothing matters. He jokes like nothing hurts. He fights like he's already accepted the outcome. But that is not freedom. That is emotional paralysis disguised as style. Spike is not above the world. He is stuck in a life that already ended. That's why his coolness feels so magnetic and so sad at the same time. He seems untouchable because some part of him already died before the story even started. The past is not something Spike remembers. It is something he is still living inside. And that is why the ending works the way it does. Spike does not walk toward the past because he has no other options. He walks towards it because he never truly left. The tragedy of Spike is that he looks like a man who can go anywhere. But emotionally, he has only ever been in one place. That's what makes him so powerful as a character. The show makes you admire his coolness first. Then it asks you to realize that his coolness was never the same thing as healing. Faye's loneliness is different. Spike is haunted by a past he remembers too well. Faye is haunted by a past she can barely reach. That is what makes her story so painful. At first, Faye looks like the character who refuses to need anyone. She runs, she lies, she gambles, she acts like attachment is a weakness. But the more we learn about her, the more obvious it becomes that Faye's problem is not that she doesn't care. It's that she has no stable place to put that care. She wakes up in a world where her own life has moved on without her. Her home is gone. Her time is gone. The people who knew her are gone. Even her own identity feels like something she has to reconstruct from fragments. So when Faye pushes people away, it is not just selfishness. It is fear. Because belonging to the Bebop would mean admitting she needs a home. And admitting she needs a home would make it hurt more when she loses it. That's why Faye is one of the saddest characters in Cowboy Bebop. She doesn't just want connection, she wants proof that she existed. And when your own past feels like a ghost, loneliness becomes more than isolation. It becomes an identity crisis. Jet's loneliness is quieter. He does not carry it the same way Spike or Faye do. Jet looks like the responsible one, the adult in the room, the person keeping the ship together. The one cooking, fixing, planning, and trying to make the crew function. But Jet's responsibility also feels like a way of avoiding his own regret. He is a former cop, a former partner, a man who has already been betrayed by systems and people he trusted. And that makes his role on the Bebop more complicated. Jet acts like he is just managing the chaos, but part of him is also trying to create something that feels controllable. A ship, a routine, a crew, a life where maybe this time, he can keep things from falling apart. But Cowboy Bebop is cruel in the way adult life can be cruel. Sometimes being responsible does not mean you can save everyone. Sometimes being the stable one just means you are the last person still standing after everyone leaves. That is Jet's sadness. He keeps the Bebop running, but he cannot make it a home if nobody else knows how to stay. And then there's Ed. Ed feels like the exception. She is chaotic, strange, playful, and almost immediately free compared to everyone else. But that is exactly why her leaving matters. Ed is the one character who does not feel completely trapped by the past. She has her own loneliness, but she is not frozen by it in the same way. She can still move forward, and because of that, Ed leaving the Bebop feels different. It is sad, but it is also healthy. She does the thing that others struggle to do. She leaves when it is time to leave. That makes Ed one of the most important emotional contrasts in the show. Spike, Faye, and Jet are all stuck in different versions of what they lost. Ed reminds us that leaving does not always mean abandonment. Sometimes leaving is growth. Sometimes leaving is the only way not to become trapped in someone else's sadness. This is why the Bebop itself matters. The ship is not just a setting, it is the closest thing these characters have to a home. But it is a strange kind of home. People come and go, the fridge is a disaster, the money is always bad, the jobs fall apart. Nobody says what they actually feel until it's almost too late. And somehow, that makes it feel real. The Bebop crew is not a perfect family. They are people who accidentally become important to each other while pretending they don't need anyone. That is the emotional contradiction that makes the show work. The Bebop is full of people who want connection, but are terrified of what connection costs. So they joke, they fight, they leave, they come back, they act detached. But underneath all of it, you can feel the truth. They are less alone together, even if they cannot admit it, even if it does not last. This is also why Cowboy Bebop's style matters so much. The jazz, the noir imagery, the western atmosphere, the comedy, the action, none of that is just aesthetic. The style is how sadness becomes bearable. If Cowboy Bebop were only depressing, it would not feel the same. It works because the sadness is wrapped in motion. Music, movement, color, coolness. The show makes drifting look exciting because drifting is exactly what these characters are doing emotionally. They are moving constantly, but not necessarily moving forward. That is why Cowboy Bebop still feels so mature. It understands that adulthood is not always a clean arc toward healing. Sometimes, adulthood is carrying old wounds with better posture. Sometimes, it is making jokes because silence would be too honest. And sometimes, it is looking cool because looking broken would reveal too much. Cowboy Bebop is cool because it is sad. And it is sad because the coolness can only hide the loneliness for so long. That is why Cowboy Bebop still works. It is not just a stylish anime about bounty hunters in space. It is a story about people who already lost, trying to pretend they can keep drifting forever. Spike makes loneliness look cool. Faye makes loneliness look defensive. Jet makes loneliness look responsible. Ed shows that leaving can sometimes be the healthiest thing anyone does. And the Bebop itself becomes this temporary home for people who don't know how to stay. That is the real reason the show stays with people. The music pulls you in, the style pulls you in, the coolness pulls you in. But by the end, what stays is the ache underneath it. Cowboy Bebop makes loneliness look cool, until it finally lets you feel how much that loneliness costs. If you like anime analysis that look under the surface, subscribe to ReservedOtaku, and let me know in the comments, which Cowboy Bebop character do you think is the loneliest?